Okay, and hello, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. And Erica and Paul, we're going to be talking today all about how to build your content career at a content agency. And we're joined by Erica Schneider, who's the head of content at the agency Grizzle, and Paul David, who is the founder of the agency Literal Humans. And today, how the structure is going to work is I've got a bunch of questions that I've thought of that I'm going to ask Paul and Erica about working at a content agency. We'll go through some pre-submitted ones, and if you've got any of your own as we go, just pop those into the chat box and we'll try and go through as many as we can. And a bit about myself and Content UK before we get started. So I'm Christina, I'm the founder of Content UK, which is basically a community for UK-based content marketers. So there's a mix of agency side, freelance and in-house people working in content. And we all come together on Slack to talk about various content issues and discussions. And we have webinars like this one today and a bunch of pre-recorded ones that you can access from previous workshops and Q&As. And we have, if you're in London, we actually have a meetup open to anybody next Thursday near London Bridge, if you're about. And yeah, members, this will get uploaded to the Learning Hub next week. If you're not a member, you'll get sent a discount code after this, which will give you 50% off your first month, and you can access this and a bunch of recordings, check out the community. Yeah, so hopefully see some of you around. That's enough admin from me. Let's introduce the panelists. So Erica, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing at Grizzle?
Yeah, so I am the head of content at Grizzle. So what that means is that I oversee all of the strategies that we do for our clients, and then the topic ideation, the editorial calendar, the actual process of producing the drafts, editing the drafts, quality control, on-page SEO, publication, promotion, analysis, the whole thing. So just making sure that we are reaching our clients' goals for them with the right strategy in the right way and all that good stuff. And then also sort of dabble in Grizzle's own marketing as well, but more on the client side of things for that role.
Nice. So doing a bit of everything. Got lots of follow-up questions to that, which I would ask. Thanks. Good overview. And yeah. Paul, hello. If you'd like to introduce yourself and Literal Humans.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Paul. I'm one of the co-founders of Literal Humans and CEO. Means I do a little bit of everything. Today was chatting with our accountant and some lawyers and onboarding a new designer and editing a blog post and all that stuff. So yeah, we're still tiny but mighty. We're growing. We're about 2 years old, specializing in content marketing and SEO, bit of website and branding, getting into audio, video, LinkedIn lead generation, just yeah, all around growth agency. So yeah, that's us.
Awesome.
Nice to meet y'all.
And also, it's been very nice seeing both agencies grow, having like spent a bit of time working at each. So it's very nice to see that. So I'm going to kick off, Erica, with a few questions, a couple of questions for you. So I'm interested, you spoke about this a little bit, but as head of content at Grizzle, what does that entail on a day-to-day basis? What are your main focuses and goals? That's question one. Secondly, I know you started off as an editor at Grizzle, freelance editor, and now you're like in-house head of content. Can you talk a bit about the process of that transition?
So we're still quite a small team, though we are growing, as you said. So the day-to-day tasks are so different every day. If I had to pick a random day, there is a lot of quality control that we do. And if there's anyone in here that writes for us, you'll know that I work very closely with the drafts. And that is because we have a very high bar for value in terms of going in depth and making sure that we are taking our time, like not just regurgitating the SERPs. And so we have editors and writers that are absolutely stellar. but we just have like a bunch of people review things. So I do spend a good amount of my day still kind of popping in and looking at drafts. But as the head of content, you sort of have to wear the hat of like not just the writer, the editor, and the strategist, but also the content marketing manager as well. So you sort of have to understand, you know, what's the goal of this piece? How does it fit into this specific client's overall strategy? Are we aligned with what we put in the brief? So there's a ton of developmental editing mindsets, which is just making sure that everything is structured the way it should to hit that goal in the way that we know the client wants it to. And then, yeah, that could be a whole day. And then another day might be more focused on strategy. So.
Nice. And on that, so if you're working on a piece of content, who are all the different players involved in that?
Yeah, so at the moment, and this will likely expand as we expand, but we have the head of content, and then we have content marketing managers that sort of own the relationship with the client. So we also have a content strategist as well that, you know, sort of comes up with the strategy, and the content marketing manager works with them on that. And then the head of content sort of oversees it. So we have head of content, content strategists, content marketing managers, which really own the relationship, create the briefs or advise the writers on like the angle, who then take the brief and run with it. And then we have editors and writers, both in-house, which is sort of new for us, as well as freelance.
Oh, nice. That's a nice overview of all the like different components coming together to make a good piece of content. And then I guess, yeah, going on to the second question is, how did you move yourself from the editor role into the role that you're in now? How long did that take? What did you do to get yourself in that?
Yeah, I think the best way to answer that is that I asked a lot of questions. So I was always curious, like, you know, I think I asked like, why are we doing this? Like, why are we writing this for this person in this way? Like all the time at first, because when I first started freelance editing, I wasn't thinking necessarily about content marketing. It was more just editing in general. It could have been anything. It could have been for a content marketing, you know, agency or with that focus, but it also, you know, I did such random things at first, which a lot of freelancers do. I was editing everything under the sun. So when I did land the role with Grizzle, it was because I was good at editing, but I didn't necessarily have those content marketing chops that you need if you're going to, you know, grow in an agency and you want to be a head of content, for example, or even go from a writer to an editor. You have to have like that developmental mindset of why are we doing a thing. So I asked a lot of questions, and I paid a lot of attention to feedback, which is something I write about a lot on social. So, you know, Tom, the founder of Grizzle, he was my basically my content marketing Yoda at first. He gave me a lot of feedback on how he would edit a thing. Not necessarily that my edits were wrong, it's just that I wasn't thinking strategically. So he taught me how to think strategically, and that changed everything. And after, I think, 2 years of editing and then becoming the managing editor, I think he saw something in me and realized that I was picking up the content marketing side of things, and really just took a chance on me. And I'm still learning as I go, but yeah, asking a lot of questions, paying a lot of attention to feedback, and being curious about the why, instead of just diving into a piece and moving on. You know, why are we doing this? What's the point? And how is it performing?
Nice. Yeah. So lots of focus on, don't be afraid to ask those questions, and don't be afraid of feedback.
Yes.
And Paul, moving on to a few questions for you. So you're coming at the agency from a different angle because you are the founder of it. What does a day or week in the life of a founder at an agency look like?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, we're getting to a point where we're building lots of new systems and things like that. So past couple of weeks have been interviewing. You know, we hired a new full-time designer, building out better HR systems with like an HR vendor. Lots of accounting stuff as we've grown. We've had to sort of upgrade our accounting capacity and finance arm. Really like kind of shifting my role toward just like supporting the team, making sure that they have everything they need. We just rolled out like a coaching system where like everyone on the full-time team and some of our freelancers have access to unlimited coaching through a service called More Happy,
Oh, nice.
Happy with an I. Rolling out a new performance management system to make sure folks feel supported with, through their managers and their check-ins and things like that. We just moved to a 4-day work week, so getting the team, to that's a big shift mentally, but it really varies, and I think it suits me. I think the biggest shift is changing my mindset from like an individual contributor to a builder of systems, a facilitator of other people's work. And yeah, I think that's been like the biggest change recently.
I love how you at Literal Humans, you have a big focus on the well-being of your team, and that's always being built into your systems. That's really nice.
Yeah, we made a leap in terms of the 4-day work week. Like some people were like, oh, I don't know. And I was like, am I really convincing y'all to take a day off each week? But I mean, ultimately we kind of jumped into it, and we're in that UK trial, so we're figuring it out as we go. But yeah, I think our bet is that if we lean a bit heavier on that side of things, like the well-being, and just lay it on really thick, that it'll return dividends for us in the end.
And in terms of the team structure, content teams, what roles are there that feed into content that's produced at Literal Humans? What does that look like?
Yeah, we're still pretty lean. I mean, so myself and my co-founder Will, we sort of like overarching strategy for across all clients, and then Adi, our content strategist, similar role, but a bit more granular in terms of like the briefs and the calendars and some sub-strategy bits there. And then obviously like our writers, designers, creative directors, even some of our digital apprentices. We've got a digital design apprentice, James, digital marketing apprentice, Shakira. We asked them to add in their bits about like, what's Gen Z? Give us the Gen Z perspective, like as the old gray haired. Yeah. So yeah, we try to make it much more of like a collaborative strategy as much as possible, more of a collaborative thing, because I think, yeah, I've just been in places where it just comes from one, usually white dude, in by himself in a corner, like, drawing things. It's like, I feel like strategy can be a bit more diverse and a bit more creative. And that involves like getting people in the room together, getting people's feedback on, the strategy, and pushing it forward from there.
Nice. And how do you support different content team members to progress and grow in their career? So if you've got a content writer that might one day want to move into a more managerial role, strategy, how do you help facilitate that?
Yeah, it's pretty multifaceted. I mean, I think the first thing is just be a human and ask them, what they want to do with their career. I think that sometimes gets lost in like the systems and the process and stuff. The coaching thing that I mentioned, we encourage everyone to take 2 hours out of their work month each month, and have a 1-hour coaching session where they talk about career goals and life trajectory, things like that, and then to bring that back into their one-on-ones with their managers. I think the performance management system, there's questions in there as well about kind of where are you going in your career and how can we support you in that. And then trying to build career pathways. So we're trying to, build those internally as a small agency. So it's really clear how people can move up, become maybe a partner of the agency, own a stake in it, so on and so forth. So.
Nice. Yeah. Lots of different ways there. You're supporting everyone. Yeah. And question for both of you, I'll start with you, Erica, but what would you say the benefits of working at a content agency versus in-house for someone wanting to build a career within content?
So for me specifically, because I can only speak from my perspective on this, because I have freelanced and worked at agencies, but I haven't worked in-house. It's just the diversity in terms of the work that we do, because we have such different clients that it's interesting. If you want to work in a specific topic or area, you can let us know, and we can diversify the kind of work that we're giving to you every week, which I think or hope is interesting. It's interesting to me to work on all these different projects. But the agency that we've built specifically, it just has such a good culture. And I don't know if this is true of every agency. Obviously, it varies. We're still quite lean. So I think it's really important how you scale and that you don't go too quickly. But the culture that we have is just like, we have such a focus on producing high quality work and putting the budget behind it that's necessary. And I think working in-house, sometimes there can be budgetary restraints, or I see a lot of complaining about that, which is allowed on communities where you want to do something and you just can't, because the people in the decision-making chairs don't see the point of it. Whereas at an agency, especially a smaller one, if you get in on the ground floor, there's so much room to play and get creative with what you do. So for me, that's been the most fun part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice. I think I am just answering my own question as well. I think I worked in-house and content side, and it's nice at an agency that people they're bought into doing content, so you can just focus on doing the content. Whereas in-house, there's all these stakeholders, and you're spending half your time like proving why you have your job. So
exactly, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And same question to you, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, similar answer. I think that creative mix of like just seeing the writers and designers and strategists kind of bounce off each other, and on a team of creatives who are excited. I think the biggest thing in an agency is like finding clients that you're excited about, their work, their product, their service, and seeing the team get excited about that, and trying to build that into like the creative juices that go into the project. I think is one of the most wonderful things about working at an agency. I mean, the way I think about it is like I get paid to like wake up and read and learn and be write and to be creative, and like that's an amazing job. And add on the remote work aspect of that, and kind of we make it a point not to work with jerks. So, and we try not to be jerks ourselves. So like, that's always nice when you like absolutely love your client. In fact, we wrote a love letter to one of our clients the other day and like put it on our blog and pretended it wasn't about them, but it was totally about them. Shout out to Playbook. They're really lovely. But like, I think once you get into that good sync with clients and you kind of like, hey, you're doing everything we asked you to do, and we're doing everything you asked us to do, and we're doing the things we say we're going to do by the time we say we're going to do it. That I think is like the true joy, and then the growth, watching the results roll in. So
yeah, they're nice. And I love the love letter and the philosophy of not working. You're not going to be jerks. You're not going to work with jerks. Okay, I'm going to move to some of the questions that were pre-submitted. And remember, if anyone's got questions as we go, just pop them into the chat. Oh, we've got. I think that was to Erica, by the way. Sana said she's a huge fan.
Thank you.
Very cute. Okay, so question from Becky Graham. She's asked, what requirements are you looking for when taking on new writers? Erica. Good.
Okay, so the most important part of a new writer is that they have a drive to improve and learn. So I've hired every type of writer under the sun, and I still haven't figured out the best formula, but regardless of experience, which I think is really important to note, because I think a lot of new writers feel like they just will never have a chance. And that is so not true if you show that you have a drive to learn, because like I said, like feedback is so important. And so we give tons of feedback. And if you are an experienced writer, sometimes it's harder to unlearn what you've learned and then like relearn what either an agency or the agency's client wants from you. And so if you can keep an open mind and sort of, I always say like context switch, but really what I'm saying is if you are a great writer, you understand how to play a role. It's almost like acting. You get a script and you have to morph into that tone, that voice, that style. And if you can do that, that's brilliant, because then you'll be easy to work with. You'll be reliable because I know that when I'm giving you feedback, I'm not speaking to a wall, which can be frustrating. It's hard when I think sometimes writers, and again, rightly so, they're so busy, it's their job to write all these things every week. And I don't know if what I'm saying is fully, like if they have the time to process it. So if you can make the time, even if you're busy, if you can dedicate as much time to taking in feedback as you do researching and putting in the work, I really think that that's the best way to show that you have the drive to grow and improve, or just mold into different forms. Because I think the best writers, are actors. They can really play and be creative. So Yeah, that's what I would say.
Mm.
If you can show that. Yeah.
Brilliant metaphor there, the acting, that's so good. And refreshing that you might even be at an advantage if you haven't got much experience because you don't have to unlearn stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What about you, Paul? What are you looking for in writers when taking on new writers?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been said many times before, but I think like good writing is good thinking out loud, and just kind of, you know, I want to see someone who can synthesize information, work across different subject matter domains, I think, to some extent. I think that's like an interesting conversation in the writing space, is like, how much of a subject matter expert do you need to be? And sometimes I think clients can be like a bit precious about it, but like, you know, but that, I think they're precious about it because they're so into their domain and their work, that, and also they're maybe not aware that there are these incredible writers, to Erica's point, like that out there that can switch and toggle and learn quickly and deeply. So I think there's a piece about like honoring and respecting the profession of writing as acting and thinking out loud to some extent. But yeah, I look for a good portfolio, even if it's like spec work. I saw a really good portfolio that was like spec work that they sort of, you know, just sort of pretended to be a writer for this company and produced some content that I thought was really thoughtful and interesting. You know, I look for someone who either they demonstrate the subject matter expertise or they demonstrate their ability to work across a couple different domains. I think we had a question come in about like university degree. I can't really recall like anyone that I've truly looked at the university degree, and like I'm really just looking at your writing and you know, your ability to weave in some of the knowledge about content marketing as like a practice in terms of like SEO and sort of optimizing for that. So but yeah, someone who like writes for humans, but it has like the SEO sort of mindset in mind, I think is important for that role.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is an interesting conversation about the generalist versus subject matter expert when it comes to writing as well. Yeah. Okay, question from Jill. As managing editor, our team is growing and adding more editors. What are some ways I can lead them well and help them improve? I feel a little imposter syndrome when I'm thinking they may already be great editors and may not benefit from my feedback. Erica.
So I think I feel like I'm a great editor and I absolutely love getting feedback. So I'm on like a mission to change the narrative around feedback. I think feedback is an amazing thing, and it's not something like that we should think, oh, I'm giving someone feedback, therefore I'm marking up their paper and they're going to be sad by all the comments. Like, I love feedback. Like, give me all the feedback, please, because even if I'm the best editor in the world at one thing, seeing it from your point of view helps me grow. Like, I want to, like I said, like with the acting thing, like I want to like take on as many roles as possible so that I have like this huge knowledge base that I can pull from. It's just going to make you a better writer. So if you can change your mindset around giving feedback, I think that's the first step. And then, yeah, just own it. I give feedback to my advanced editors all the time. And as long as you're leading with positivity and humility, you know, I ask a lot of questions when I give feedback, you know, like, I'm curious why you did this like this, like, I love it, but, you know, could we also maybe do it this way? Like, think about it, you know, like, what would you do? Just to open their mind a bit more. It's not like, oh, change this, change that. You know, I'd do it this way. Like, why did you do this? It's more of it's a collaboration. Think of it like a brainstorm. And it's really important because it just doesn't ever end. I got tons of feedback today on something that I wrote and I love it. I just love it. So I would say there's no need to have imposter syndrome with that. And if you can frame the feedback to your team in that way, then hopefully they should be able to take it better. And there's always room to improve. Like, there is no, I'm the best and now I'm done learning. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah, excellent advice there. And Paul, what's your approach to giving feedback?
Yeah, likewise, I'd say it's a huge like red flag if someone can't take feedback, whether it's from the client or from, you know, other team members and stuff like that. Have definitely discontinued working with people who showed early signs of not being able to take feedback and integrate it. And as conversely, it's a huge green flag when someone is like, you know, to Erica's point, like hankering for it and takes it on board and implements it. So, you know, I think that's one of the questions we ask in interviews is sort of, you know, like, how do you take on feedback? Give us an example of a time that it was tough, but you took it on board and you changed because of it. And then, yeah, in terms of process, I mean, I think we open up space for clients to give feedback, and we're constantly assessing how our writers are taking that on board and implementing it. We give feedback internally as well, usually from myself or our content strategist. And yeah, and then we're kind of implementing like a larger scale, you know, performance management system that includes like regular feedback, and just building that like coaching culture of, you know, you've got a coach you can go talk to, but you also have a manager, and together they're really your support team. So yeah, just like trying to make it job embedded as much as possible, feedback.
Yeah, it's a nice culture to build. What would you say to someone who feels uncomfortable giving feedback, like they feel a bit guilty that they're going to make somebody feel bad about themselves? Do you have any advice around that?
I think it's good to ask people like, sorry. I think it's good to ask people like how and when they like to receive feedback. I think that's important. So like kind of a consent conversation around feedback. Some people like it in writing, some people like it in their, you know, in person in their one-on-ones. You know, maybe someone wants an audio note on WhatsApp. I don't know, but like, you know, I think we should be open to the different ways that people best receive feedback and just asking them. I think also asking people up front, like what self-feedback do they have? I find that in my one-on-ones, if I ask people like, hey, like what didn't work so well for you this week, they nail it like 95% of the time. And then that just saves me having to like give that feedback, which I love as a manager. So I think asking up front, asking, you know, methods and consent kind of around feedback, I think are important. Yeah,
that's a great idea to ask what their own feedback on themselves would be. We've got a follow-up question on the topic of feedback from David. He said, when you give feedback, are you open to having a dialogue with a writer, or do you expect writers to carry out the edits regardless? Erica.
Yeah, so absolutely a dialogue, but I can feel the underlying tension in that question, and I want to address it because as an agency, especially if so you're not writing for yourself, usually you're writing for other people. And so if you are the one who has that relationship with the client, ideally, you know, you pass as much of that information over to a freelancer or a writer as you can, but you've had the conversations with them, you sort of understand what they want and need. And so it can come across as, I don't want what you did, do this instead, when really it's, you've done an absolutely brilliant thing. It just doesn't fit in this, like in this specific little hole that we're trying to fit it in, because I understand like the client's vision. And so the best way to get ahead of this is to explain this vision at the forefront, so that when you do give feedback, there's less of a pushback on, oh, but you know, I made this choice and you hired me to do a job and I'm an expert, and why aren't you listening to me? And it's I can tell you from my perspective, it is never, I don't like the writing choice you made. It's always, there is a strategy discrepancy here. And so if you can sort of, it's hard, but if you can try to portray that strategy as much as you can up front, there will be less of that, because the writers that we work with, and I'm sure that are in this webinar, are so good. Like they are experts at their craft and they are being hired to do something. So I totally understand how it can be frustrating if you disagree with the feedback. But to your point about a dialogue, yes, I always say, I think we should change it, but let me know what you think. And if the writer pushes back, I will go back and forth with them as much as necessary. And I'm always open to listening to why they want to do something. But at the end of the day, if it comes down to, this is what I know the client wants, it sort of has to be like that. Even if we both don't feel it's the best move, sometimes the client does have that final say. And so there is that sort of like other person in the conversation that's not in the room.
Yeah, nice clarification on that tension, that ongoing tension there.
Yeah.
And Paul, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I agree. I think dialogue, and I think also just generally like taking the stance of like inquiry over advocacy. So like, sort of like, why did you do this? Do it this way, or like, hey, have you considered other ways to frame this, such as X? I think is important just in just like managerial relationships in general, and editing as well. And then I think there's like something to be said for like a healthy attitude, that like I'd say like a healthy mindset. I think a lot of writers can carry, which is like, I think it's a general healthy lifestyle, attitude of like, it's not about you. Like it's like truly, it's like about the strategy and like delivering for the client, and like, like training ourselves to like write in their voice and to like really nail the approach and the strategy that we said we'd take for them. So like, how can you sort of, I know it's hard. We're creatives and we're so attached to like our art and our things that we create, but like, I think that it's just, you need some distance, and kind of, but I agree. I hear the underlying tension in the question. I think rationale is important as well. So like, if you take a step back and you say like, hey, I did it this way for this reason, like, but have you considered another way to do it for this reason? And it's like a reflective dialogue that sort of is grounded in sort of the writing as like as an art, as a profession, then cool, all about it. But if your response is like, no, I don't want to do it that way because I don't like it, then then that's a different, story. And I think we've all seen and experienced, both as writers and managers of writers, like both kinds of back and forth. So
yeah, just stepping away from taking it personally and seeing like just the overall strategy at all times and working towards that makes a big difference. Yeah. And switching up topic a bit here from feedback. So in a content agency, unlike in-house, you're producing content for multiple clients at one time. How do you juggle content management across multiple clients? Erica.
Systems. So systems, processes. We use Airtable, we use Asana. I love Airtable, not a plug, just a good tool. We have a very specific time frame and like project management processes that we follow, essentially. So everything has a schedule. We have SOPs for everything. So, if we're going to create a brief on this day, then 2 days later, the outline. 1 day later, feedback from the client, all of that. It's so processized. You have to treat your editorial calendar, whoever's running it has to be a project manager, essentially. That's really the only way. And then in terms of content guidelines and making sure that you are giving like the quality that is necessary for each client. We have different content marketing managers that manage different clients, and we try not to have too much overlap. So whoever owns it, owns that relationship, they know that client, they know what they want and what they need. Same with the editors, and then same with the writers, though, like I said before, we do let them sort of hop around if that makes their job more interesting. And then, resources, knowledge bases, writing every single thing down so that it's not just in one person's head, because there's so many things to juggle. I actually have a project management background, so that's been fun for me. Because when I first came in, I was like, oh, this is just like my last job. Like, I'm just going to manage like 10,000 clients. And so I think that's been fun, sort of bringing that in. But it is not easy. There is a lot of moving pieces, and you're a juggler. But having systems and like automating things to yell at you is good.
And how do you handle any tension that comes from clients who kind of don't want to follow your systems and they want to do their own versions of things?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it? There's no there's no right answer to that. I've literally written out email templates on how to deal with every single potential client response that I can think of, because that's just how my brain works, and that's how I train people. Because you're never going to get every single one, but I think that's part of my project management background. I've worked with every client under the sun, the most difficult in the world to the easiest. And it's just, they're still going to surprise you. I would say the best way is gentle, affirmative nudging would be the three words that I would pick for that. You just have to sort of, sort of nudge them along. But at the end of the day, they're paying for a service, and if they don't want to follow, the best way that you've provided for them, that is their choice. And you just, you do what you can, and then you evaluate the relationship as you go. But yes, gentle affirmative nudging.
Love that. And what about you, Paul? How do you juggle content for multiple clients at Literal Humans?
Yeah, I mean, much agree. Systems, I think, are individuals and like that just content manager role who are both like tacticians and can handle the project management side of things, and then also strategists who are constantly thinking about how to enrich the strategy and make sure they have the support they need for both. And then on that last bit, like firmly agree on the gentle, firm just for clients. Like it's just and I think like having people on your team who support that and can help you execute that. I've definitely felt that in my role. Like I always have to be like the heavy or like the bad guy in conversations and stuff like that to like kind of nudge clients along. And I don't think that should just come down to me. I think the entire team should be like, put a tough but fair framework forward, which is like, look, you've hired us, we're professionals, we need and want you to trust that. I think it can be handled in the onboarding month. We do an onboarding month when clients come on board, where it's with like a lot of deep research and sort of agenda setting for the entire engagement. And I think that's important to like really win that month and just say like, look, these will be our processes going forward. We've set these up for these reasons because we understand that this will produce the best possible work for you and your team. And just being really transparent about that. And when the client flips, go back to that. Say, hey, we agreed on this in this call. Like, here's what we built this framework together. I think really just kind of like framing, making it about mutual agreement and not like court actions all the time, which they happen, but they should be referring back to an agreement that you have. So.
Yeah, that's so important with that first month of onboarding to set how you're going to work together and keep referring back to. Absolutely. Question here from, I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Megha Seth. How can a freelance writer stand out when pitching to an agency? Paul?
Yeah, have a great portfolio. Maybe have some client testimonials from stuff you've worked on. Show how you think. I love landing on a writer's like personal website or professional website and seeing how they thought through a project and seeing them explain it and sort of show their work, but also explain their work. I think alignment is really important, and this is really hard, but like if that agency specializes in tech for good, say, and needs great health tech writers or HR tech writers or ed tech writers, then like highlight those parts of your expertise. And also understand, try to understand where the agency is in terms of like, are they building a, cache of freelancers, or are they hiring more full-time or some mix of both? How do you fit into that? Ask that question. What are the, but I think as an agency owner, it's like having folks who understand the agency's priorities at the moment, or at least curious about them, and then saying, okay, here's how I can fit into that, rather than like, hey, I'm the best freelancer writer ever. Like, here I am, which, you get 5 of those every week. So I think being curious, showing up with great work, and aligning yourself to the agency that if you really want to work for them, I think helps.
Yeah. Excellent ideas there. And Erica, same to you. What makes a writer stand out when pitching?
Yeah, that all sounded great. I totally agree with all of that. I said this twice on social media, so I'll say it again here because I have yet to see someone do this, though we do have some applications that I haven't looked at. I think that we as writers improve every month. I look at something I wrote last month and I go, probably change that. I would love to see a writer send me something that they wrote and then send me a separate document where they've just edited the crap out of it and be like, here's why I made these changes. And here's what I've learned since then. Look at how much I've improved. Hire me because I'm on a mission to improve. That would just blow my mind. Somebody please do that.
There you go. Big invite. Any writers there? That's your invitation. Love that. Question here from Chick Hill.
Amazing.
Oh,
okay, that's great. I'm gonna start embedding that in our process.
Yeah, it's an amazing exercise. What's the question here? I was having a chat with the tech co-founder today. He told me his biggest challenge working with a content agency was lack of expertise about their product. So he's looking to hire in-house writers. I know Paul touched upon this topic a bit, but do you guys think brands are biased towards in-house writers, and are such brands your target customers? Paul.
I think again, it's sort of like about a line. Like I think some brands have just made the decision that they want to hire in-house, and that's totally their prerogative, and I think works better in certain situations. So again, I just think that's like really depends. We try not to pursue companies that we feel have made that decision to hire in-house and try to convince them, because it's just like oftentimes a really hard sell. But I think that's an interesting conversation to get in with clients about like, hey, like what's best going to suit your needs now? A lot of it's like growth stage. Are you pre-seed? Are you seed? Are you Series A? Like what type of content you need to produce? What quantities you need to produce? What are your strategic goals? How could an agency versus freelancers versus in-house help you meet those goals? And just we've had conversations where we're like, actually, this has been a great chat, but like we think you need some in-house technical writers with subject matter expertise. Like we can't really do this for you, and just give them that advice. And then just wanted to chime in on that last question to say like on freelance writers, like hiring them, I think the bar is actually like pretty like low in terms of entry. Like like if someone's persistent and like shows up with what Erica said, like, hey, I've edited this writing, or I've here's a great portfolio, like I'll probably give you a chance. I'll let you write a post for our blog, and maybe my standards are too low, I don't know, but like I'll give you a shot, to like produce something, and I'll pay you for it. But I think it's about, again, it's that alignment. Like I need an HR tech writer right now. I'll give you a shot at a blog. If you can really knock the socks off, then we can chat about longer term engagement. But I would just encourage folks. I think the bar isn't super high.
Yeah, put yourself out there. I just had a question, actually, another one on the hiring process. What is the common hiring process? Is LinkedIn the right channel to be more visible as a writer, or is it best to apply to open positions and send cold emails? It's from Abby. Erica?
I would do both. I get a lot of DMs, and my response is always, here's a link, because again, processes, like I need a place to track you, and that puts you in a system. So that's important for me. But if you've taken the time to DM me as well, with a personal note, that will obviously stand out. So I would say just do both. But yes, if there is a link, I would say it makes me feel like you've researched us more. If you go find that link, apply to it, and then say, hey, I've applied, instead of, hey, I want to work for you, what's next? Because I want you to take that initiative. I don't want to have to send you the link. You should go find it. Like, show me some initiative. That's part of the what Paul was saying about, like understand who we are type thing. Go to my website, you'll see that there's a careers link. It's right there. So I would say, yeah, both, but take the initiative first.
Yeah. What about you, Paul? Do you have a preference for how people approach applying?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn's great. That's where we focused our hiring, sort of, where we post all of our jobs. I think eventually we'll have a careers page. We need to get to that as a growing agency. I think cold outreach is tough, mostly because because not good, but just I think it often lands like not always at the right time, or often at the wrong time, or just I'm not looking, for that specific role at that time when you reach out to me cold. I would say in terms of the hiring process, like the best advice I can give is like figure out a way to differentiate yourself. Like we just went through all like 24, new designer interviews, and the two folks that we hired one full-time and one we're going to work with as a freelancer with the hope of hiring them, like had visual systems that they walked us through, like had a visual presentation as a designer that they walked us through to showcase their portfolio and like work that they've done. And they clearly like prepared a specific presentation just for us as an agency. And maybe it was a copy and paste of other things they presented, but like none of the other designers did that, which blows my mind. Cause I'm like, you're a designer, like you should be presenting things in a visual format for us to And so our creative director was absolutely just blown away, as was I, because I just think designers are freaking magical wizards who I can't even understand how they do what they do. But it's just, yeah, like differentiate yourself in the process. Like, do spec work for a client that's listed on our page. Like, I'd be a great writer for, Oyster, because here's what I learned about them in my research. I'd be like, shit, yeah, let's plug you into Oyster and get you a blog post going. Just differentiate.
And almost like showing what it would be like for them to be working for you or the clients, just going that level up, almost like they're doing a bit of work already. It sounds like. Cool. I think that's a good time to round off. But before we go, bit of internet seems to be going a little bit on your side, Paul, as well. But thank you both so much for sharing the last 45 minutes with us and giving all your career advice. Where can we find you on social media if people want to connect or ask other questions, Erica, and any final words of wisdom you'd like to give?
You can find me at Erica is my name in Twitter, not Instagram. Well, yes, but don't go there. I'm private there. Go on Twitter. So it's at ERICAS my name. And on LinkedIn, it's just my name. Just type in my name, Erica Schneider. It's the same picture as on Twitter. So you can find me there. Last words of wisdom. Yeah, just have a drive to work. And it is a hustle, especially if you're new. It is a hustle at first. It is a low barrier to entry, but there are a lot of people entering the field. So it is a hustle. I hustled for a year and a half before I had any breakthrough I was happy about, that was, paying very well. So just hustle, and enjoy the hustle. Like, it's a learning curve that hopefully you can have fun with, because every single project that you do is just going into your experience bucket. So that's nice. And yes, cut the fluff. cut down that fluff. And yeah, if you want to grow at an agency or just grow in your career, I would say, if you're a freelance writer, pay attention to feedback and try to become an editor. I think that's a really good way to sort of climb the ladder, because once you're editing, that sort of puts you into a strategy mindset, because you have to think about more than just what are the words on the page. It's why are we doing this? And so I would say, write, edit, and then the rest of it will open up to you.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And a really nice compliment here from Raphael for you, saying, Erica is my role model when it comes to editing. So much stellar content with dope insights on how to cut down fluff. Much appreciation. It's a lovely little compliment there.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And Paul, where can people find you on the social media worlds, etc.? And any final words of wisdom?
Yeah. I'm old school. Just find me on LinkedIn. I'm not on Twitter. I don't have time for it. I just I think it's just Paul David -LH on LinkedIn. Go to the LH page on LinkedIn, follow us. And yeah, final words of wisdom, I'd say just be memorable, like stand out, differentiate yourself, like just, and that like thing that makes you memorable is like the truest bit of you, like figure out what that is, like what makes you stand out, what makes you passionate, what makes you alive, and like display that, show that in your writing, in your design, in your strategy. Be like, yeah, just be memorable as best you can from that deepest part of you. So
yeah, own it. Amazing. Thank you both very, very much, and enjoy the rest of your days. Rest of your days in London, and speak soon. Thank you everyone for coming along.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.